In 2036, a civil war broke out in Ukraine, where a resistance movement clashed with Russian insurgents. To contain the threat, the US Army sent peacekeeping forces, along with robotic soldiers sent by the UN, known as GUMPs. On yet another night of battle, a group of 40 US Marines finds itself surrounded by Russian snipers armed with a missile launcher. As the battle intensifies, Lieutenant Thomas Harp monitors everything from the command center through the cameras of a drone ship. With the soldiers' lives at risk, Harp requests authorization to launch a missile and destroy the launcher before it's too late. The request is denied, but the lieutenant disobeys a direct order and fires the missile, destroying the launcher and saving the 38 soldiers, including Sergeant Miller. However, 2 of the soldiers were eliminated in the explosion, and after the confrontation, the lieutenant is called in to explain himself to his superiors. Harp tries to explain, but as punishment, he is removed from remote combat and transferred to a field battalion in Ukraine, led by Colonel Eckhart. Days later, the lieutenant arrives at the new base, which is monitored by soldiers and GUMPs. After passing through identification, Harp is introduced to Colonel Eckhart, who says he is already aware of the missile incident. He warns the lieutenant that he will not tolerate insubordination at his base and sends him to find Captain Leo to receive his new mission. The lieutenant then proceeds to an isolated area of the base, and upon entering, he finds himself in a room filled with paper files and old machines. Finally, the lieutenant finds Captain Leo, and without much introduction, he summons him for his first field mission. The two are to deliver medication to a group of survivors in the conflict zone, as well as obtain information about a Russian criminal named Viktor Koval. According to his informant, Koval is a supplier of nuclear weapons who is seeking access to missile silos created during the Cold War. Although many believed these silos were deactivated, Viktor intends to recover them and thus have an unimaginable source of nuclear power. If he achieves his goal, the nations of the world will become easy targets for the criminal, who has interests greater than the war between Russia and Ukraine. Upon discovering what he is getting himself into, Harp warns that he has no experience with combat in the field, but the captain tells him that this will not be necessary. The two then go to the locker room to collect their equipment, when suddenly Leo takes off his shirt and reveals his true identity. The captain is, in fact, a high-tech android, created as a super soldier for the US Army. Harp doesn't believe this is possible, but Leo assures him that it's real, and that only he and Colonel Eckhart know his true condition. For this reason, the captain demands the lieutenant's trust and discretion, otherwise the entire operation will be at risk. The lieutenant accepts the conditions, and with the equipment collected, the two head for the jeep. As they walk through the base, Leo reveals that he personally chose Harp for this mission, as he needs someone who is willing to support him, not just obey orders. The captain also warns that even though he is an android, he is still higher up in the chain of command. Therefore, if Harp wants to survive in the combat zone, he must follow all his